Edward here from ERViewer.com. I have another video for you. I was recently in Houston, Texas for a work-related trip. My remote viewing buddy, my pal Dustin Newcomb, he lives in Houston, Texas, and it was a great opportunity to hang out and talk about the things that we like to talk about, like remote viewing and consciousness and these types of realms, of spiritual realms, and all that kind of stuff. We talked all night about it. One of the things, Dustin, you've seen him in previous videos. We send targets back and forth to each other. A lot of my time sensation work, the targets that were provided for my time sensation work were provided by Dustin. ARV stuff, he provided those targets for that, and I sent him targets as well. So we were talking about a target that I had sent him that where he had a very intense experience with it. In remote viewing terms, you may call it a bilocation experience, you may call it a perfect site integration or a site integration experience. I call them dimensional sensations and aesthetic sensations when something seems to be taking over in the process of acquiring and experiencing these varying times, points in time and space in this process that we call remote viewing. So as we were getting deeper into this conversation, I wanted to pull out the camera and record it because these are conversations that I wish I had access to when I first started remote viewing. My Patreon site is available. It is up right now. Let me get back to this. My Patreon site is up. Patreon.com/Edward Reardon Remote Viewing. It is set to go. I'm going to be putting content up there starting tomorrow. What I'm going to have on here is the stuff that I wish somebody else had done. When I first started remote viewing, I'm going to put up the stuff that I wish was available for me when I was first getting into remote viewing and struggling through the years with remote viewing. I'm putting up the things that I wish I would have had. I'm going to have a lot of content on here. I'm very excited. I don't know where it's going to go. It's just going to grow and expand and take over, and I'm going along for the ride. It's going to be a very in-depth look at the process of remote viewing in a lot of different areas, and I really look forward to it. I'm going to be making a lot of content on here. TarotSpaceDesign.com is Dustin's website. Dustin is an artist. He creates spiritually inspired furniture and art. If you are looking to acquire a piece of art handmade, inspired through Dustin's spiritual process, I highly recommend it. You can go there and you can talk to him and work with him to create you something so special and so unique. It'll be just a one of a kind. I have pieces of art from him. He's awesome. Talismanic furniture and art inspired by the transmundane. That's him there. He goes through he has his spiritual tools and his processes that he does and uses to inspire him artistically and create furniture and pieces of art, man. Really interesting guy. I'm very grateful to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him and talk about these things. And so check his site out, TarotSpaceDesign.com, if you want to have a unique piece of spiritually inspired, infused with spiritual energy. Go to him. He'll work with you. He's awesome. If you want to journey with me on my never-ending, I'm kicking it up to the next level here. I can feel it intuitively that I'm going to go. I'm going to go into spaces that I've never been before on my Patreon page. I am really excited about it. So that's it for that. Here is the interview of me and Dustin Newcomb talking about consciousness, remote viewing, and cool things like that. So thank you so much. Many more to come. Edward here from ERViewer.com. I have another video for you. I'm in Houston, Texas with my buddy Dustin Newcomb, a guy who sends me a lot of interesting targets to do, a lot of the ARV stuff, a lot of that kind of stuff that we do. He sends me the targets. We're sitting here, we're talking about remote viewing, we're talking about consciousness and all the things that we're interested in. We're discussing a target that I had given to Dustin that was a very interesting target for him to do, and he had a full blown experience, dimension. We're talking about the dimensional sensation that he experienced while remote viewing this particular target, which just happened to be a psilocybin mushroom. That was the target. Dustin, you were telling me about when you began to have what could be considered in remote viewing terms a bilocation experience, where you started to experience something dimensionally. What could you tell me that again? What were you experiencing? Describe it as best you can.
Sure. So I was experiencing aspects of the target, parts, but not the whole, and I was having a little bit of difficulty kind of getting my bearings and figuring out what was going on. And then there was a brief moment there where it was like the periphery opened up. I was able to actually experience the target. I felt very small in front of it, and this thing felt huge, and it was more of a concept rather than like a visual experience, but more of like a very encompassing, full-blown concept that opened up in my head or in my mind space, where I was small in front of it, and this thing kind of the energetic pattern or outline of it was there in front of me, and I was able to see all of the parts that I was experiencing individually as a whole at that point, and the whole thing just kind of unfolded in front of me like a giant like a giant Christmas tree or a mushroom at that point.
So dimensionally, you were having a dimensional experience where you could I don't want to say feel, but you were in a like a tangible concept in your mind that you didn't know what it was, but you could feel it, you could experience it dimensionally.
Yeah, for sure.
And as far once you started to have the experience dimensionally, and how did you describe it a little deeper if you could, what that felt like, where you were when you had the experience of when something changed in your mind, some part of your mental processing was triggered. You were having a dimensional sensation, and a conceptual sensation was now taking over your mind, and you were suddenly experiencing something unusual or something outside of your normal perceptual experience. When you were feeling that, and this dimensional thing was happening, and you were small, and suddenly the target that you were working on suddenly became real in your mind. Did it feel alien to you? Did it
Sure.
trigger other emotions? Was your curiosity triggered? What
From the beginning, the whole target felt very, very alien, very odd. I had a hard time grasping on. There were a lot of confusion breaks that I took because I was picking up specific aspects of it. Like I would experience the underside of it, but it was huge, vast in front of me, and I would see and experience the gills on the underside of this mushroom cap moving and dropping spores, and it felt
you were feeling like dimensionally that something was dropping down.
I was right there, and I was about the size of the spore, experiencing all of this, and that was confusing, and I was not able to really get my bearings, so to speak, figure out which way was up. And then, so that happened. I did probably 3 or 4 sessions total on it, and the first 2 were a lot of that, where I was just grasping on to single, mechanisms that the target was using, or parts of the target, like the anatomy of the target. And then it was in the 3rd or 4th session that I did where everything kind of gelled and came together, and it was an experiential process where all of those individual parts all of a sudden were there in front of me, but I was able to kind of zoom out, and periphery faded away, and it was all right there. And I was very small. This thing was huge. I saw its energetic pattern.
What do you mean by that?
It was visually represented to me through colors, overlapping colors, and it was as if it was a blueprint or a map that was it was its structure, but it was the energetic structure. I wasn't looking at it. It's not like I bilocated and there I am standing in front of this little mushroom.
Right.
What I saw was the visual interpretation of its energetic structure, and I was able to pull together all of those small little experiences I had on the individual parts, and then there was that eureka aha moment where like it connected with me and I connected with it. There was a dump of information that happened at that time that's hard to articulate.
Yes.
And it was very, like we talked, experiential, like in the moment. And I was able to, from that, brief experience, pull out, come back, and then, write all of this, download of information and sketch a mushroom. It was a huge mushroom with this kind of mandala type energy emanating from it, and that was it's programming is what I felt like. It's it's code, and which was part of its structure, part of its process, part of its reason to exist and propagate.
Now let me ask you, that sounds like a very interesting experience. You've done plenty of remote viewing. As far as the experience of remote viewing, do you feel that when an actual remote viewing does take place, and when this experience actually does take place, that it should be, or it is, more along the lines of what you experienced in that episode, or just like a data mining, data gathering type of activity?
There's certainly been different flavors, different targets, and I've had some instances where I am right there for a brief flash. I'm there. I'm experiencing the temperature change, the environment of the target, and then there are other experiences I've had where it is more of like it's a feeling. It's a sensation that is hard to put into words. And it's definitely experiential. The data mining kind of like cerebral part of it, that definitely comes in and out. Once that input comes through and through the liminal, I think that's when it takes over. That's when their aperture is open. It's like information dump. And then you're able to take that, zoom out a little bit, write down your information, and then kind of go back in. At least that's how it works for me. It's kind of a push-pull. I'm in and I'm out. I'm in and I'm out. It's hard for me to have one leg in that world and then one leg in the, materium, like in the mundane.
I definitely understand what you're saying. Because to me they're kind of two different experiences. The experience where which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the experience like you're saying when you're suddenly having a dimensional conceptual experience of your size in relation to the size of whatever it is that you're connecting with, and then this kind of blast of the unknown in all of this amazing emotional glory? Which one do you prefer? The more cerebral data collection, writing down element, or this kind of otherworldly dimensional finding yourself in this kind of unknown glorious space?
Yeah, that's definitely the hook. That curiosity, that feeling it's different every time. It's a different experience every time. It's accumulated experiential knowledge that can then be used to get all cerebral later. But like while I'm in the session and while I'm doing it, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that connection with the target, and it is very hard to articulate. It is like being in the moment, and being with it. It's a whole experience. It's 360. It's fully immersive.
Right. I totally agree, and I think that that is the experience that if more people could have, more people would be interested in the pursuit of the fact that we can actually have this kind of experience beyond just gathering information for some data-hungry people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, data's great and all, and the world's full of it.
We are in an information age.
Yeah, the world's also full of all kinds of crap. So I think the experience is what makes it.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, without that, you can
Google something.
Yeah, you can get real cerebral about anything, but unless you have that experience, that's where the knowledge base comes from, and you're able to speak to remote viewing or speak to having these kind of psychic experiences in the psychic space, however you want to define it. That's where the meat and potatoes is. I mean, the rest is all gobbledygook brain stuff.
I think you're right. I totally agree with you. I feel that if someone in the pursuit of this activity, or in the pursuit of this type of human experience, that the discipline of it is to be able to differentiate between when somebody is having a mental gobbledygook episode as opposed to a full-blown, as in remote viewing terms, it would be called a bilocation or site integration experience. Being able to differentiate the qualities of the two, meaning that a gobbledygook mind experience feels completely different than the experience, as you're talking about, where you're having a dimensional sensation, you're having a conceptual sensation, different emotions in our range are being triggered like pure curiosity.
Well, that's the whole point too, is that you're involved in the process, and so you have to know your own, like what that feeling means for you or how it arises in you, to be able to distinguish between what's analytical overlay and what is a true contact with the target. And you have to be self-aware enough to understand how your being processes that information. And so part of that whole experience of being with the target is also being with yourself and understanding how signal comes through you and your aperture opens up, and how all of that works within your physiology or your being.
Right, absolutely. The two experiences are completely different. Like you're saying, when you had when the dimensional element came into your awareness, came above the threshold, and you suddenly, or you went below the threshold, and you're suddenly experiencing this thing in a way that was very unusual to other experiences. Once you have that experience, when you have it again, you can recognize that the qualities of it are different than if you're just having some type of cerebral experience where you're not able to actually, either the cerebral gets in the way or stops the experience, but when you don't have that full-on dimensional episode.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm hoping, my hope is that if more people go into this exercise with the intention of having that experience, I think we'll have we'll keep this thing going. We'll be able to push this thing forward because it's more than just information gathering. It's what experiences are we capable of having as human beings? I believe we've only experienced maybe 5% of the total potential experiences that we can have. And this is an exercise of having and something that is beyond what we how am I trying to say this? It's like we have a whole range of experiences that we can have that we don't even know yet. And this is one of them. But you have to have it to comprehend that we can do it. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Consciousness it's a huge term that we barely understand. And so this is just one aspect of exploring consciousness. And you're intimately a part of it, whether you're aware of it or not. And so by exploring consciousness in this vein, this aspect, you're exploring yourself and your place in time and space and within consciousness and all of that. It all kind of goes hand in hand, and it lends itself, for me at least, it lends itself to a better awareness of my limitations, where my field ends and the rest of it begins, and how to be able to push through those boundaries and explore the universe around us, explore what we're swimming in.
Right. It just makes me continually curious and fascinated what else we can do. And what are those other things that we can do? What do those experiences feel like? Because if we can feel them, then we can do them.
Yeah.
And expand on that. So awesome, man. Thanks for sharing your experience with
Absolutely.
me. And it's always fascinating to hear everybody's experiences, and I think it's really important. So that's my interview here in Houston, Texas, with my remote viewing pal, Dustin, and more projects to come and more videos to come too. So
Cheers.
Houston is a cool place. All right, cool.
Right on.